Welcome back. I'm Ramesh Raskar. I'm a faculty member here at MIT Media Lab, so let me officially welcome you to the building as a host here. I'm delighted to welcome and introduce Mr. Akash Paul, who's the director of the Caparo group, and he's involved in a lot of activities. He's part of the Tech Mahindra group. He serves as various advisory roles at Carnegie Mellon University, as well as here at Sloan School. His background and his family has an empire that really crosses across various continents in North America, in Europe, and India. And we'll be hearing a lot about his background and his success in various fields, and also his advice for the young individuals here in the room. And of course, Mr. Paul is a fellow MIT alum, having graduated here with an MBA from Sloan. And he also has a degree in chemical engineering from Carnegie Mellon University. So it's an honor, Mr. Paul.
Professor Raskar, thank you for your kind introduction and for inviting me to share some thoughts with you. My dear Professor Kothari, businessmen, eminent economists, students, and fellow Indians. Although in my case, I must confess I'm a Brindian. I'm proud to be British and proud to be Indian. My 21-year-old daughter, in fact, calls me a coconut because I'm brown on the outside and white on the inside. My 26-year-old son, though, just calls me a nut. In fact, that reminds me of a story. A man was driving down the road in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden, one wheel falls off. His car stopped. He finds the wheel, but he can't find the nuts and bolts. So he walks and walks and walks, no gas station in sight, nothing in sight. And he finally comes to a building that says mental asylum. He walks up the stairs, and the first person he meets is dressed in a white gown. And he goes to him and he says, "Excuse me, I have this problem. My car's stopped, my wheel's fallen off. I don't know what to do. There's no gas station in sight." The gentleman says, "Oh, very simple." He says, "You've got 4 nuts and bolts on each other wheel. Take one out of each wheel, put this one on with 3, and go slowly till you come to the next gas station, and you'll be fine after that." He says, "That's amazing," he says. He says, "You must be the doctor here." The man retorts, "No, I'm here because I'm crazy, not because I'm stupid." Every entrepreneur needs to have a little bit of craziness in them. Anyway, I was thinking after today's speakers, how do I follow poetry? How do I follow peacefulness? I thought I'd try with a little joyfulness. It's always a great pleasure to be back at MIT. Truth be told, I'm ever so slightly envious of every one of you students sitting in this audience. To me, the years spent in this university are one of the best in my life, and I'm thrilled to see such a lot of promising young people enjoying the same experiences that I had nearly 33 years ago. Excuse me. Rashi and Hari had requested me to talk about India and the Indian economy. Then I emailed SP, and he emailed me back, "You talk about whatever you like." So it's my experiences that I wanted to talk to you about today. There will be no need to take notes. I shan't be quoting any facts. I'm sure you hear plenty of these in your lecture theaters every day. And they're probably far more accurate than anything I could prepare. I'm not here to discuss the latest growth figures for the Indian economy either, especially with MIT being voted #1 university in the world. I know many of you can do a lot better than me. Many of my co-esteemed speakers have been far more knowledgeable early in the day. What I can assure you, though, is that beyond numbers, India has a very bright future. How do I know that? Well, let me start by telling you about Caparo, what we do in India, why we do it there, India's entrepreneurial talent, and the impact of MIT Sloan. The Caparo business that some of you may know about started in 1968 as a very small enterprise. 44 years later, our company is a private conglomerate of small and medium-sized businesses with total sales of $1.5 billion, employing 10,000 people in Europe, America, Canada, India, and Dubai. While our main operations were historically based in the United Kingdom and North America, 8 years ago we decided it was time to invest in India. Since then, we have built 35 plants, and we continue to expand. The reason why Caparo have invested millions of dollars in India is because we have identified a strong long-term potential for this market, and we wanted to be part of that growth. We built our first factory in India in 1994. Not till 2004, we accelerated our investing in India in a big way after seeing the changing economic climate there and the Indian government finally realizing the benefits of more open trade with the rest of the world. We went greenfield. In India, it was easier, cheaper, cleaner than acquisitions. We bought 2 existing businesses which have given the most problems because many Indian balance sheets do not really reflect the real situation. That's a travesty. We put up several plants in various states because we needed to be close to our local customers. And we found now the different Indian states were competing for investment. Our strategy was one which mirrored Indian companies. They bought in the West because they were looking for access to Western markets. We had the customers in the West and simply followed them to India to establish low-cost manufacturing, effectively replicating our existing operations. We used our own know-how and expertise and established a low-cost base to serve both our existing markets and the fast-growing Indian market. I'm proud to say we have not only created a number of successful enterprises which deliver high standards to the local economy, but in the process given thousands of jobs and provide a lot of training to the workforce in the areas in which we operate. I know many of you sitting here today feel passionate about sport. Sport, you'll say. Surely that's quite a change of subject. Which one is your favorite? Cricket, soccer, rugby? We at Caparo waited till liberalization made it possible to at least choose our game. We found that by keeping our projects small, we were able to play our sport, cricket. The rugby players now had an abundance of large products, and the soccer players fitted somewhere in between. In the meantime, we have managed to build a substantial business despite a certain element of fragmentation by keeping our individual projects in the $5 million to $50 million range. It is true they are harder to manage and sometimes less rewarding than a large plant, but we have been able to retain all the shares and not resort to having to play contact sport, which is very important to our business as it does not dilute the Caparo values, and at the same time provides plenty of opportunities for those employed in our companies in India to develop their ideas. We strive to be the best cricketers, and we do not worry about competing against those playing a different sport. I hope the day will come when everyone plays only cricket. Sorry to anyone who prefers soccer or rugby. Caparo has a way of doing things which goes back to our Indian origins and values. Rightly or wrongly, we have chosen to reach the same destination, but not by running a race. Driving within the speed limit of 70 miles an hour and slowing down when the weather gets bad, it rains, sleets, or snows, and speeding up again when the sun is shining and the sky is blue. Caparo has not succumbed to or been tempted by its own overambition to drive at 100 miles an hour and risk crashing before it reaches the destination. Driving cautiously, we have gone at a controlled pace in the traditional way without having to dilute equity. We have always considered uncontrolled debt as a double-edged sword. It cuts everybody else on the way up, but it cuts you on the way down. We have tried not to borrow with conditions we could not live with and with terms we could not understand. And I believe we have been proved right by recent world events. Artificial money created by illusionists remains a mirage to Caparo. EBITDA to us means earnings before I trick the dumb auditor. It is net cash flow and net profit we measure. Our motto is turnover vanity, profit sanity, and cash is king. When I consider the events post-2007, 2008, and the recent financial crisis, I'm overcome with sadness at the demise of traditional business and banking values. Allow me to illustrate with another analogy. In the old days, when the patients, the businessmen, fell ill, they went to the doctor, the banks. The doctor took the trouble to get to know the patient and find a cure. This time, the doctors forgot the patients, and in a frenzy to build their own practices, fell ill themselves. The patient's only option was to pray to God, government. Only God can print money. For God, it would have been an impossible task to help all the patients directly. God had little choice but to help the doctor, but has done so in the belief the doctor would help the patients. But largely, the doctors have ended up helping themselves again instead of helping the patients. The marriage of traditional banking and trading has not worked and is now in need of a serious overhaul. It must be pondered and pursued. Traders who hide behind the banking veil of respectability must be made to rise and fall on their own. In my opinion, the current situation is like letting a fox loose in the chicken coop. The separation and segregation of these different banking activities is essential. I am relieved to say that Indian banks have largely not fallen victim to this easy lure and continue to concentrate on traditional banking and lending. Not many would lend for a property without a 30% deposit. This is another important reason why Caparo has chosen to do more and more business in India. India's democracy, slow and cumbersome as it is, provides an assurance that business environment will not be hostage to unanticipated upheavals. India's population is 50% larger than that of sub-Saharan Africa. It is about double the population of Latin America. Yet the level of violence in India is and has been much lower than in either. Indian democracy has, with all its shortcomings, provided more than half a century of stability that so many countries are seeking. Conventional arguments doing business in India are obviously familiar to this audience. I will not belabor them. However, let me make some observations that may be helpful in the larger context of evaluating opportunities in India. First, almost universal acceptance of free enterprise by most of political society. Social democrats, communists, regional parties, and almost the whole spectrum of Indian political segment is now committed to global capitalism. This is a sea change from the past, and I believe it will endure. Economic performance is becoming the major rationale for rewards at the polls. The impact of this in creating business-friendly policies is increasingly evident. The recent volte-face on investment in the retail sector bears testimony. Second, state governments are acquiring a greater degree of importance and policy-making independence. A very significant part of the country is now governed by political groups different from the national government. These state governments are more and more impatient with the slowness of New Delhi. They are making policy, demanding better infrastructure, and trying to streamline their bureaucracies. All of them see the advantages of foreign involvement. If this trend continues, it will produce significant improvements in some of the tedious bottlenecks that have made doing business in India tiresome. Third, there is a new element that is making a major impact on Indian society: the rise of grassroots civic organizations. In every part of the country, this civil society activism is evident and is being strongly supported by India's independent news media. The combination of rising social consciousness and the dramatically expanding electronic media is a potent force. Its effect on corruption and national disgrace is abundantly clear. the huge and spontaneous response to anti-corruption movements led by prominent social activists can only escalate. All this has had an effect on the new capitalistic society, and in India there is more and more recognition that they must not abuse the system. The buccaneer capitalism, particularly of the mines, resources, and airwaves that benefited only a few with connections, is being more vigorously questioned. Although from the wrong school up the river, let us recall the warning of the noted Nobel economist Vasily Leontief, who said, "Capitalism and free enterprise, without strict monitoring, will hugely enrich the wealthy few under the pretense of national progress and widen the poverty chasm. We must denounce corruption, but we must also remember that corruption is a two-way street. Both givers and takers are equally at fault. While the demand side is local, a large part of the supply side comes from the foreign enterprises who see it as a way to obtain shortcuts. While India has to curtail its side, those who do business in India have to be more conscious that they should be less part of the problem and more part of the solution. And here I refer to the facilitation bribes, not the harassment ones that Kaushik referred to yesterday. We must ensure the growth benefits the masses and at the same time control the foible of inflation so it does not make this growth an illusion. My final observation is a cultural one. I have always believed that Indian culture has a strong entrepreneurial heritage. This is evident in the traditional social structure. Doing business is as Indian as meditation. Unfortunately, for various reasons, the post-independence Indian state discouraged entrepreneurial activities and submerged it in regulations, licenses, and other obstructions. But sooner or later, the natural tendencies of a culture reassert themselves. And it is this what has happened in the past decade or so. Incrementally, perhaps, but the trend is clear. India is returning to its natural condition, and this will continue. The costs of imposing an alien straitjacket on the economy have been so high that it is unlikely to happen again. I believe this is one of the most encouraging developments in the past decade or so, and the world should be made aware of it. Our economy, grounded in state-owned enterprises, did not do very well for a long time. But as reform takes place, these state enterprises are becoming public-private partnerships that are useful components in liberalizing the economic landscape. As the economy opens, we must all push for these openings. The innovative and entrepreneurial genius of the Indian people is unleashed and is proving equal to any competition in the world. In short, Indian culture is the best insurance against misguided economic nationalism in the future. India is blessed with entrepreneurs. One day I was walking on the street in London and I noticed a van on the side of which was written, "Patel and Patel Plumbers. You've tried the cowboys, now try the Indians." When it comes to entrepreneurs, you will find they are separate from the rest of us because they are comfortable taking risks. While a lot has been said about entrepreneurs in various programs and textbooks, to me, being an entrepreneur is a state of mind. It is the state of mind you're in when you want to forge ahead and enjoy what you do, like the Swami said. And the entrepreneur has to forget about job security. He also has to have the backing and belief of his family. To my mind, an entrepreneur is someone who is motivated beyond monetary reward, has the ability to do the work they do not like as effectively as the work which they do, needs little sleep, few holidays, and few hobbies, is not afraid to lower his standard of living, never worries about a pension, never complains, never explains, never compares, always dares, has his share of luck. In my case, it was picking the right dad and the right wife. Always maintains a sense of humor. When I used to chair my board meetings, and some of them could be quite tough when business was in trouble, I would always insist that one of the directors told a joke before they left the meeting. Laughter is the best medicine and motivation. Let me tell you one of the jokes I liked. A man decides to go into a shop one day. He wants to buy a dog. So he asks the shop owner, he says, "I want the best dog you have. I want one that'll get the newspapers from me when they come out in the porch. He'll guard the house if some intruder is coming near, When I go to play golf, he'll buy the golf balls. He'll find the golf balls for me if they get lost. So the shop owner says, I've got just the right dog for you. His name is Salesman. So the man says, fantastic. He takes Salesman home, and he has this dog for a few years, and one day he meets the shop owner 3-4 years later on the street. The shop owner said, how are you doing? How are things? And how's Salesman? He says, well, he's fine. The only thing is I've changed his name to Sales Manager. The man says, why did you do that? He says, because nowadays he sits on his ass and barks. The Indian entrepreneur, whether in India or abroad, is the best protection India has against what many fear, a new type of economic colonialism. An important part of all this freedom is the freedom to exchange ideas, an area which in India is a world champion and a sharp contrast with other countries that have been attracting foreign investment in recent years. And that is why gatherings like this are important, occasions at which we can share our thinking and be enriched by that interaction. I've always believed if we can share our experiences, then we can perhaps benefit from the landmarks in the lives and careers of others. I come from a family business background. My father is a man who believed in hard work and the value of close family ties. He and his 3 brothers and his 3 sisters lived literally above the shop since the factory was on the ground floor, and they lived above it. I started in a similar way, living in a Welsh council estate with our workers, working from the shop floor to operations, to sales, and then management. Then I came to MIT Sloan, armed with a chemical engineering degree from Carnegie Mellon. I thought I knew a lot about business and people, but of course that was very far from the truth. This was a major transition. It was Sloan that helped me develop my personality and my people skills. It was here I gained the essential ease of life: education, energy, etiquette, empathy, eloquence, elegance, and elan. Others have to be the judge, but I like to think they're still with me. And I should add the 4 E's Swami mentioned again: equanimity, ease, exuberance, and existential. In this post-college atmosphere, there was constant interaction with the people of other cultures and backgrounds. It was an extremely valuable opportunity which has helped me tremendously in later life. It is here that one can learn most about cultural sensitivity, which is an essential ingredient to success in modern international business. In Britain, as a legacy of a proud empire, we are lucky to have such a diverse population, and that helps us to understand each other better. Finally, you all know the guru concept is an integral part of our culture. After parents, grandparents, our school teachers, our professors, are our next gurus. I believe there is an obligation to give back to your teachers and for the benefit of future generations. My family foundation provides a scholarship for one Indian student to come to MIT every year, and we have recently contributed to the new Sloan building with the Ambika Paul mezzanine and Ambika Paul study room. So please allow me to conclude by requesting that as soon as you graduate and succeed in life, you open your wallets and give back to MIT. Thank you once again for a lovely dinner and for your gracious hospitality to my wife Nisha and I. We would both like to wish you all, on behalf of our family and the Caparo business, every success in the future. Thank you.
Maybe I'll speak up. Can you tell us a little bit about, from your time here to your expansion in all the different continents, what key lessons you have learned and whether they still apply today, or you have to learn new lessons all over again?
You always need more money than you think you will when you start out. That is the main lesson. And second, you always think yourself smarter than you really are.
You have spoken glowingly and lovingly about India. Now, what if you were to improve one thing about India or Indian government policy or business policy, entrepreneurship, what would that be?
Sorry, I wanted to bureaucracy or government or politics?
I'm assuming that India is not absolutely affected 100%. So if you had a chance to improve things in India, political or policy or business or entrepreneurship, anything, what would that be that you would like to improve?
Right. Well, first of all, what is perfect, not perfect, is always relevant in comparison to some other place. So India is very perfect for me compared to Africa or Latin America. But it may not be perfect compared to Europe or to the United States. But I think the main thing we have more people running our country today in the bureaucracy than the British have running the whole empire. So I would definitely streamline the bureaucracy and also make the politicians much more accountable if there's a way of doing it.
When we were speaking earlier, we were talking about how, especially the generation here, the student population here at MIT and Sloan and Professor Kothari can tell more. And also here at the Media Lab, I teach a class on ventures. There's an amazing ethos for entrepreneurship. I'm sure it has changed since you were here at Sloan. So there was a panel on entrepreneurship earlier in the afternoon, and there was a lot of discussion on what is challenging in India is the fact that the ecosystem is not built around individuals who have become successful on their own. And many of the big businesses actually are family run. And so the loop where the VCs and angels are personally involved in helping young entrepreneurs doesn't exist. Do you think there's a way to break that? And what would be the message for students here at MIT?
Well, first, just to clarify, when you say family run, many of the biggest businesses in India family run, but not family owned. See, when we take our business, it's family owned and family run. There's a huge difference between a business that's family run and family owned. The biggest danger in India has been that the family run businesses they don't own. The second thing is that the Indian entrepreneur, when he succeeds, does not feel an obligation to give back to the next generation of entrepreneurs, either in his time or in his money, and so not to create that ongoing stream. They just take what they get out of the entrepreneurial system or whatever they have exploited in that system. That's my observation. Thank you. We're on perfect time.
Thank you, Mr. Paul, for just the right ending for the day. We hope all of you had an enriching and enjoyable experience here through the various sessions and conversations our team put together today. Hope this has all enabled us to see India and all the issues surrounding it in a new light. I would like to thank all the panelists and keynotes for not only taking the time to join us from different parts of the world, but also to share their insights on a diverse range of topics. We hope many of you build bridges that will last a lifetime. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for making this event possible. Thank you very much, Reliance, MIT India Innovation Fund, MIT Sloan International Initiatives, Media Lab Camera Culture, and the Dean's Office at the MIT Sloan School of Management for their support. I, along with the whole organizing team, would like to thank you for the time taken to attend this conference and making the MIT India Conference 2012 a success. Thank you, everyone. We now have the final showcase outside, where we are showcasing all the initiatives and technologies being developed in MIT for India. Thank you, everyone.